The EB3 visa, a subcategory of the employment immigration visa, is a powerful option for professionals, skilled workers, and unskilled workers hoping to get permanent residency in the United States. Through the EB3 visa, a U.S. company can sponsor a foreign worker for a green card through a full-time job offer. Raju Law, one of the top immigration law firms in the USA, is your trustful address for any assistance and advice regarding immigration to America. To know more, dial the number shown on your screen.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. So today we have a special session. Unlike other week, we will not have any open discussion about a specific topic. Today we have a town hall. We have a town hall on NIW, National Interest Waiver. Those who already know about NIW, I have nothing else to say because you already know. Those who do not know about NIW, NIW is a subcategory of employment-based category, EB2. It's called EB2 NIW. So the great thing about NIW is you do not need a job to come to America and get green card. Those who are already in America, studying masters or PhD, NIW is a great tool to get green card. Those who are in a foreign country at this moment, if you have a master's degree or PhD degree, good number of work experience or publication citation, NIW is a great tool. So today I'm going to invite our supervising attorney Helen Partlow and also supervising attorney Chelsea Smith, also Isabella, our paralegal. She will also join and she will read your questions. So before we go to question answer, I would like to invite Chelsea Smith to talk about how to translate a scientific topic for non-scientific audience.
Good morning, Raju. Thank you.
Yes, you can start presentation.
I'm sorry, do you want me to start it?
Yes, please.
Oh, okay. I'm ready.
Okay, so do you have any slide that you want to show?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Can you see them?
Yes, now we can see it.
Perfect. Okay. So scientific writing from the client perspective. The reason that this is important is because there's highly technical terms related to the scientific writing that's very industry specific, and it can be very confusing for individuals not in the industry. This is an important thing to understand and develop because it helps you with having understanding for non-scientific individuals who may be interested or needing to translate your work. And so, as I stated, the purpose is to clearly communicate your research to others who may not have the essential skills to understand the highly technical information. For instance, when you're working with potentially, like an immigration situation, we need to understand what you do so that we can help to further your case. So some key steps to follow when you're translating your work for non-scientific individuals is to first know your audience. And knowing your audience is whether you are discussing the information with maybe novice scientists who maybe don't have as much experience, or you're working with attorneys, or you're working with some other kind of individual. Know your audience so that you can properly tailor your conveyance of your message. And with that in mind, you can further enhance the understanding of your communication by relating your research to something that the individual may already know about. That's a very helpful tool. It's a way of creating similarity and further clarification of important information. So the next step that is important to follow is to show the relevance of your research. So for instance, if you're in context of the NIW, we want to know how it relates to the proposed endeavor, and we want to know how it shows like your impact within your industry. So if you can show the relevance or the way that your research supports the proposed endeavor, that's key, and it helps us greatly. The next thing to remember is not to use too much scientific jargon. We have some, for instance, we have some software engineers or scientists, chemical scientists, and they're in highly complex like computer science programming or chemistry, chemistry reactions, and that's just probably beyond exactly what we need to know. You can kind of tailor that down so that we get the point without going too far with your scientific explanation. Another thing to think about is to make your writing interesting. If you stay relevant and keep the perspective in mind of the relevance of your research, this helps you keep your writing interesting because you're not deviating too far off of that kind of objective that you're trying to achieve. Another thing to think about is whether illustrations could be useful. So sometimes illustrations are very helpful if you're maybe trying to show like some kind of, for instance, maybe economic impact. If you're showing like the growth trajectory of your industry over the next 10 years, potentially an illustration could be beneficial. And lastly, when you're working with non-scientists to review your work and kind of help you further this NIW, having a non-scientist review your writing is probably one of the most helpful ways to eliminate large miscommunications. So having maybe a friend or a family member who maybe isn't in your industry read it and say, hey, I have a lot of questions, or hey, getting their feedback really helps you kind of get that first impression that maybe your attorney would have if you're working with us to do an NIW. So I like to recommend following these 7 steps, as it tends to address most of the concerns that clients would have if they were trying to interpret their prior work, prior projects, prior research for us so that we can relate it to the proposed endeavor and build the NIW. Here, my last slide is for any questions.
Yeah, thank you so much, Chelsea. We will definitely take questions about this presentation in the how to translate a scientific topic into non-scientific language for non-scientific audience. At the same time, we will take any questions related to NIW. If anybody has any question, me, Chelsea, and Helen, we will answer your questions.
Perfect. Thank you.
I would like to invite Isabella to conduct this session. Isabella, if there's any question, you can start reading or.
Hello, Mr. Mahajan. Should I start?
Yes, please.
Addressing the questions?
Yes.
First of all, hello, everyone. Welcome back to the weekly live session of 𝗏𝗏 Law. We are joined by Ms. Helen Parklow and, of course, Ms. Chelsea Smith, in addition to Mr. Raju Mahajan, and I am Isabella Rosario. We have seen a very informative presentation by Ms. Chelsea Smith, and we have already had some questions lined up. So the first question that we have is from Mr. 𝗦𝘂𝘃𝗲, and he asks, is it mandatory for publication on the same field? How many publications and citations, at least, do I need for NIW? Is there any option to bypass publication as like job experience, professional certifications?
Helen, do you like to answer this?
Yes, absolutely. So there are 2 ways that you can go about it. One is by showing you have publications, one is by showing work experience, and then the third would be to show that you have both. So there's some fields of clients that we have that don't have any publications because that's not like the typical norm for their industry. So we've done NIWs without any publications at all. And the people that are successful that don't have any publications have work projects that they can share with us. So often I say, If you have work projects, I would like to get a letter of recommendation to back up that work project from someone that was maybe your supervisor or worked with you on the same sort of a project. So typically we like to have details on 4 total. So this could be 4 publications, 4 work projects, a combination thereof. And these are things that are the most closely related to your proposed endeavor, which is what you want to do here in America to help change the country for the better. So if you have a publication that's maybe from your undergrad and it's in engineering, but now you're in machine learning and AI, obviously that's not related. So we just need to get 4 publications and or work projects that are related to what you want to do.
Thank you so much, Ms. Partlow, for that informative answer. We have another question from Ms. Claire Baker, and she asks, how long does it take the USCIS to process NIW by an applicant from the EU or UK or Switzerland? The applicant is residing outside the US.
Let me answer this question. Please keep this question in the screen until we finish the answer, because sometime when we answer, we need to reread it. So Samir, please keep it. Okay, so it doesn't matter where the applicant is from, whether the person is from EU or UK or Switzerland, or could be in somewhere in South Africa, South America, or like Asia. It's the same time. USCIS do not have a different processing time for NIW. But so let me tell you a little details so you understand. So NIW application has 2 steps to get green card. The first one is called I-140. That we will talk mostly today. But there's a second step. The second step is either I-485. Those who live in America, they go through I-485 process. Those who live in a foreign country like EU, UK, Switzerland, they go through consular process. They need to apply visa petition in their local US embassy. However, that sometimes make little difference based on the local embassy. People from India, China, Mexico, and Philippines, they have long waiting time because there is a lot of people from those countries in America. So you already know probably about the country quota. I'm not going that detail into country quota in this matter, in this question, but people from EU, UK, Switzerland, all these countries are on the list of like other countries, like Bangladesh, like South American countries, African countries. Everybody's on the other list. So it's kind of like it should be like the same kind of time, but it depending on the embassy. Let's say US embassy in Switzerland is busy with some other kind of work, so they are getting like less interviews every day. That's why there may be a little longer time, but in general, it should be same kind of time. So my understanding is that you asked about the second part. That's why like geographical location matters, but for the first part, there is no difference in terms of geography.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mahjan, for answering that question. Up next, we have another question from Ms. 𝗦𝘂𝗍𝘆, and she asks, what are the common reasons for declining an NIW?
Helen, you would like to answer it?
Yeah, sure. So a lot of the things that I see all stem from the proposed endeavor. So that's basically the foundation of the petition. So your proposed endeavor needs to be well defined. It needs to broadly impact America, and it needs to have like different steps that you are looking to take to reach it. So for instance, say my proposed endeavor is to help reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and I plan on doing that by creating more electric vehicle substations across America to help people switch to more of an EV type of a car. So I'm going to, make sure I'm describing exactly how I can impact that, giving maybe like a short-term view, in the interim, like right away, I'm planning on, looking for this type of position. Then maybe later down the road, I'm looking to open up my own research facility or a consultation firm or something like that. So I really feel like a lot of NIWs are rejected because the client does not have a well-defined proposed endeavor. Because if you can line that up really well, then the rest of the petition will flow from that. And then you can find, what makes this proposed endeavor have substantial merit. You can then find different national initiatives that are related to support this proposed endeavor. And really, I really feel like all the other reasons that might be rejected all stem from that proposed endeavor not being as well defined.
I hope that answers your questions, Ms. Ruma. We have another question from Mr. Nandan Kumar, and he asks, when a client signs an agreement, who is going to write the endeavor for the scientific personnel?
Chelsea, do you like to answer it?
Sure. So when a client signs a retainer agreement with us, they work with the case manager to complete the onboarding process. And part of that onboarding process is we send a questionnaire out that prompts the individual to answer questions about their industry and their proposed endeavor interest. From there, our team will help them review their drafting and the questions that they've answered and develop any lingering issues that may come out if we review it and say, hey, we need to develop this part of it more, or come back and say, okay, well, tell us more about this aspect of your proposed endeavor. We do that. And we also Helen and I generally meet with onboarding clients, and we're able to further assist in that development aspect. A lot of times clients come to us and they say, I've never thought about my work in this way. Can you talk me through how to approach addressing this questionnaire? And so we work with the clients on multiple levels to address and develop the proposed endeavor. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that response. We have another question from Mr. 𝗦𝘂𝗍𝘆, and he asks this time, is it possible to apply for NIW without MSc? BSc and job experience, are they enough for NIW?
Yeah, let me answer this question. Thank you very much for this question. So theoretically, yes, you can apply with a bachelor degree and 5 years of progressive work experience. Progressive means you had promotions. Let's say you started as an assistant manager 5 years ago, and then you got promotion to manager, and then after that, you got promotion to senior manager. So you have 5 years of progressive work experience. However, in our experience, applicant with bachelor degree and progressive work experience has less chance of getting approved than people with a master's degree and PhD degree. That's why recently we decided not to take any case with a person with a bachelor degree and work experience. However, theoretically, yes, you are eligible to apply.
Thank you so much for that response, Mr. Mahajan. We have another question from Ms. 𝗂𝘂 𝗟𝗶𝘆, and she asks, how long does it take to process the application when I applied through your firm?
Helen, can you please answer this?
Yes, sure. So typically we have our own process of doing this, but the initial process is onboarding with the client. Like Chelsea said, she and I tend to meet with everybody. And this is pretty much just a partnership between us and the client. So we ask for a lot of different material from the client, diplomas, transcripts, awards. If you have copies of publications, we need letters of recommendations. Work experience, maybe certificates of appreciation or certificates because you completed some sort of, educational program or something like that. So a lot of it in the beginning really depends on you, the client, on how quickly you can give us these things. We also give you some forms, like we already said, there's a proposed endeavor questionnaire that helps us get more insight from you as to what your goals are here. And the initial part really does vary because, some clients are well organized and they've already thought this through beforehand and they have things kind of ready to go. Some clients take a little bit longer trying to find all these various documents that we request. But once you have all of your documents in, and then it gets assigned to a law clerk or an attorney, and then it should take about 3 to 4 weeks until you get to see a first draft. So we have our own internal process. We have the drafter, and then we have other people that review it. Chelsea reviews, I review. We both do that role a lot. And, we make sure that your petition is written in the strongest way possible, highlighting all of your accomplishments and making sure that all the legal arguments are satisfied and strong. And then we send it to you for review. So again, then once it gets sent back to the client, it's up to the client how long it takes them. A lot of the time these documents can be 40 to 50 pages. So they are quite lengthy. And, we do ask that the client do an in-depth review, make sure that we're just, relaying your industry correctly, your accomplishments correctly, that sort of a thing, checking, spelling of your name. Obviously, that shouldn't be a problem, but things like that. And some clients get back to you within a day. Some client takes a week. So it really depends on the client and how quickly they can turn things around back to us. Also, there might be some initial back and forth email correspondence. Maybe we're missing a document. Maybe we have a question or you have a question. But typically, once we get everything in, it should be a pretty quick turnaround, 3 to 4 weeks to write out everything, get it into your hands for review. And then, obviously we would edit anything with your feedback. We would compile all of the other documents. You can review that as well. Then we submit it back to the case manager and they get it prepared for printing, which is just about a day or two, depending obviously if it's over a weekend or holiday period, might, add a day or two depending upon with that. But overall, it really is a partnership. So it depends on, like I said, how much the client has on hand, how much they're able to get, and how fast they can bring it to us.
Thank you so much, Ms. 𝗟𝗏, for answering that question. We have another follow-up question from Mr. Nandan Kumar, and he asks, let's say I have a great experience in my field, but I don't know how to wire my achievements.
Chelsea, would you like to answer it?
Sure. Thank you. So if a client has a lot of experience in their industry and they've never thought about their work in the terms of like the proposed endeavor and the NIW, we work with our clients extensively to develop their goals and understand their projects through the form of like multiple onboarding questionnaires. One questionnaire will be about projects, one questionnaire would be about their proposed endeavor, and we ask very specific questions that help us develop client-specific information as it relates to the NIW. So you have a lot of support and the firm has a lot of experience helping clients develop their proposed endeavor as needed. So I think that generally our clients feel very supported through this project, and it, as Helen said, it is a partnership. So that's typically how we handle things.
I hope that answers your questions, Mr. Kumar. We have another question this time from Mr. 𝗦𝘂𝘆 and he asks, can you please tell us about the educational requirements for an EB2 NIW visa?
Let me answer this question. Well, the education requirement, as I said earlier, the minimum requirement is a bachelor degree plus 5 years of work experience. And then, of course, if you have a master's degree, then you definitely have a better shot. A master's degree with at least 1 year of work experience is really, really good, especially if that 1 year work experience is from a very reputed company. The best case scenario is a PhD person, have a PhD degree with a lot of publication citation. There is no magic number for how many publication, how many citation you need. It depends on the number of publication. Of course, if you have more publication, more citation, that's also always better. At the same time, it depends on the quality of the publication. If you have like a tier 1 journal publication, if you have like a lot of citation from a very reputed persons, those are better. So the minimum requirement is bachelor degree, but there is no maximum. If you have a PhD, you have a postdoc degree, that's also better. So yeah, those are the education and work experience requirement for EB2 NIW application.
I hope that answers your questions, Mr. 𝗟𝗏. We have another question this time from Ms. 𝗦𝘂𝘆 and she asks are there any strategies to expedite the NIW process?
Helen, do you like to answer it?
Yes. So I think to expedite your NIW process is to start gathering your items now. If you have an idea that you want to maybe apply for this visa within a year, within 6 months, start gathering all those documents now, making sure you have copies of your diplomas, your transcripts, any awards that you've done. If you maybe don't have a publication yet, but you submitted something and it's pending, or maybe you only got a confirmation email, gather emails that you have. If you have any letters from potential customers that would be interested in whatever it is that you're doing, any sort of clients, those things are all really helpful. Looking for, maybe copies of, maybe you got some grants or scholarships involved throughout the years. And then also start thinking about who you might want to have as your recommender. So we typically request 6, and it's not a steadfast rule. There are no actual requirements for any recommendations, but our firm likes to use 6 as a way to kind of bolster your application. So these are people that either work directly with you on, we like to kind of vary the projects a little bit. So if you've had maybe different companies or different supervisors through the years, or maybe different professors, something like that, they need to talk about something specific you've done. So make sure that you're, getting people's contact information. So when you are ready to go and ask for that recommendation, you have it handy. So those are all things that you can do to kind of get things started beforehand. And also maybe just thinking, in what way does my work broadly impact the country? Does it have to do with health? Does it have to do with the environment? Does it have to do with infrastructure? All of these different things, just kind of like gathering now, because like I said, the quicker you can get your paperwork into us, the quicker we can get started.
Thank you so much for that response, Ms. 𝗟𝗏. We have another question from Ms. 𝗦𝘂𝘃𝗏, and she asks, can individuals with industry experience apply for an NIW petition without letters of recommendation? Is it correct that an NIW petition can be approved without letters of recommendation?
Let me answer this question. Thank you very much, 𝗦𝘂𝘃𝗏. Well, the short answer is yes. Recommendation letters are not mandatory for NIW application. However, a lot of time, especially those who have a degree in scientific field, we lawyers, we're not the one who can judge somebody's credibility, whether it was like a good work or not good work. It was like a medium kind of work. So since professors are supervisors, they have better understanding about the field. They have authority to talk about it. So that's why we recommend having recommendation letter, at least 6 recommendation letters. We usually save our clients and prospective clients. If you can get 6 recommendation letters, that's good for you. 3 dependents, 3 independents. Dependents meaning people whom you worked with, like your professor, your supervisor, your colleague kind of person. Those are dependent recommendation letters. Independent recommendation letters are from the people you never worked with, like a professor of a different university, supervisor, or like a senior manager of a different company, or like somebody who is expert in your field, but you do not have any academic or official collaboration. Those kind of person are independent. So a lot of time our clients say, "Oh, it's very hard for me to get 6 recommendation letters." Then I say, "It's okay. Try to get 4. Even if you cannot get 4, try to get at least 3." So my personal opinion is recommendation letters are really, really helpful. A lot of time, USCIS also wants recommendation letter, but short answer to your question, it is not mandatory. So yes, I know some people who got approved without any recommendation letters, but I always recommend to have some recommendation letters.
I hope that answers your queries, Ms. 𝗟𝗏𝘃. We have another question from someone called Mahamudul Hassan, and he asks, I have a question for Ms. Chelsea Smith. How long does the NIW application process usually take from start to finish?
Chelsea, can you please answer it?
Sure. So I think Helen's already touched on a lot of the specifics of this. There's, of course, the upfront burden is on the client because there's so much information requested up front, and it just depends on how organized the client is and how prepared they are for the NIW ahead of retaining us. So for the clients that already have substantially all the information together, their onboarding process is much quicker than individuals who have maybe not been able to gather all of their information ahead of time. So that part, there's a lot of variation. So for each client, it can be different. As in terms of once we receive everything and the drafting process begins, it usually takes us 4 to 6 weeks to get it submitted to the USCIS. And then again, on the backside, there's more variation because depending on whether the client chooses priority processing or standard processing, it can be large differences. Priority processing, the USCIS is required to render a decision in 45 days. For standard processing, it's more ambiguous. We're seeing 3 to 4 months for most clients. And then that's just to gain your priority date. So after the first step of that, then there's the second step to actually receiving your green card based on your priority date. So hopefully that answers your question. It's vague, it's ambiguous, and it varies a lot from client to client based on their individual circumstances and whether they choose priority processing and then just USCIS we're just seeing a bit of variation there for clients. So I hope that answers the question.
Thank you, Ms. Smith, for your response. We have another question from Mr. Nandan Kumar, and this time he asks, can you write a recommendation letter? If yes, what information do you need?
Let me answer this question. So yes, we write recommendation letter for our clients, but we always recommend that you get recommendation letter from the person who is going to sign it, your recommender, because frankly speaking, he knows better about you than us, and he knows the relationship between you and him or her. So he's the best person to write it. And if you say no, he's very busy, he or she is very busy, he or she said no, you go ahead, write it, then the second best person is you, because you know better about you and your recommender than us. But let's say you're also busy or you're not very confident about writing it. Yes, we can write recommendation letter for you, and that is also included with this package. Our fee is $4,500. So within this package, writing 6 recommendation letter is also included. So when we write any recommendation letter, we have a template. We give the template to our clients. So in the template, we ask about, please write something or give information about your recommender. Try to give us their website link, LinkedIn link. If they have information in their website, in the official website, meaning the university's website or the company website, or any information publicly available, please give it to us about the recommender. At the same time, the second question is, please send me information about you, like your background and everything, any public information. The third question is, what is the relationship between you and your recommender? Tell us as detailed as possible. Do you have any sweet memory? Did you go to any conference together? Did you do any joint project? Was there any bad experience? If there's even some bad experience, please make sure that you send it to us so we can present it in a proper way. And then the last question is there anything else you want to be, you want us to mention in the recommendation letter? So usually a recommendation letter is like a 2 to 3 pages long. Sometimes it's shorter, sometimes it's longer. So just remember, to write all this 2 to 3 pages long recommendation letter, we need a lot of information. And most of the information is very specific about you, your recommender, and the relationship between two of you. So we cannot just write something out of the sky. So we need all the information before we can write a recommendation letter. So short answer to your question, yes, we write recommendation letter for our clients, and it is also included within the package.
I hope that answers your query, Mr. Kumar. Mr. Rajiv Nath says, thank you. You're welcome, Mr. Nath. We have another question from Mr. 𝗦𝘂𝘃𝗍𝘆 and he asks, can you please tell the optimum number of LORs for NIW cases?
Helen, do you like to answer it?
Sure. So we recommend 6, 3 from people that you personally know and 3 from people that you don't personally know. So the 3 people that you do personally know, these could be, supervisors, they could be professors that have worked with you, those sorts of things where they have direct knowledge as to whatever project or publication that maybe they're going to be talking about. Then we ask for 3 people from someone that you don't know. So this could be a little bit trickier. This is a lot more clients have questions on these. So this could be, say, for instance, you have a publication and it has 6 citations. So one of the people that have cited to your work obviously has in-depth knowledge of your work and how it has impacted the industry because they used it. Obviously, it helped further their own work and they cited to you. So getting a recommendation letter from someone like that does not know you, they do not know you personally, but they know of your impact and they know of that work in specific. You can also ask for maybe another professor in the same field at your school that you never had, but they could be familiar with something. Like you can hand them your thesis, you can hand them a publication and say, it's probably easiest for you to write the letter of recommendation, I tend to always say, just because you know what you want to say in order to kind of bolster those sorts of things. But obviously invite them to edit it at will because we want it to be authentic from their point of view. And then otherwise we ask for these that are independent recommenders just because it kind of removes that personal bias aspect that could possibly be there. So, if they just say, oh, yes, sure, I know Helen, she's great, she's a hard worker, but they don't really know, anything beyond that. So you're kind of removing that personal bias by just saying, I don't know Helen, but I know of her impact in the field because of this publication that I used to further my own work, or I know of Helen's, contribution to this company or her contribution to this specific project, and they can talk about it a little bit more removed. And that way it kind of gives a little bit more like credibility because you're removing that kind of personal bias. So typically we ask for 3 and 3, so 6 total, but there is no, it's approximate. Some people might get 1 less, some people might get 1 more. It kind of depends on who you can find that would kind of satisfy all these different things.
I hope that answers your question, Mr. Desa. We have another question from Mr. Nurul Aziz, and he asks, Fulbright Teaching Excellence and Achievement Scholarship holder from U.S. State Department and a secondary school teacher having MA in English, MEd, BEd, LLB, BSc degree with 12 years of consecutive experience in the field of teaching English, eligible for NIW?
Let me answer this question. So you have a lot of degree, which is good. At the same time, some degrees doesn't match with each other. So my understanding is that you have a Fulbright Teaching Excellence and Achievement Scholarship, which is a great thing because we can easily show that you are already recognized by American government, that you are a person of a kind of national interest, that otherwise they will not give you Fulbright scholarship. It's really prestigious. So that is one good thing. Another good thing is you have a MA degree in English. And you have a secondary school teacher. So that is also a good thing. However, you also have an LLB degree, which is a law degree, and you have a BSc degree. I assume it's a science degree. So this LLB degree does not match with your background. So most likely, we will not highlight this LLB degree. We can just mention it that, yeah, he has a law degree, but will not highlight it because it doesn't match with your other achievements. So bottom line is, yes, you are eligible for NIW application. However, when you write your proposed endeavor, please write something that is beneficial to entire America as a country, like a country as a whole. So since you have a English teaching experience, you have a MA in English, and you have a secondary school teaching experience, in your proposed endeavor, you can say that once you come to America, you will do some research on high school, like a secondary school teaching and how to improve the quality. And if you Google it, you'll see there's a lot of problems in American, especially in public school environment. A lot of kids, public school kids, they are not well taught. So you can say that since you have experience in teaching, you will do some research. And with that research, American public school system would be heavily impacted, heavily improved through your research. So bottom line is you are eligible. If you apply, think of apply to NIW in your proposed endeavor, please highlight research, especially in secondary school teaching environment. And I think in that way, your application would be a good application.
Thank you so much for your answer, Mr. Mahajan. We have another question from Mr. 𝗦𝘂𝘶𝗍𝗆, and he asks, is it possible to apply for NIW while I am doing MSc in USA? Not completed, it's running.
Let me answer this question again. So as I said, the minimum requirement is a master's degree. So since you are an MSc student at this moment, I'm assuming you do not have any other master's degree from any other country. If you do not have any master's degree from any other country, I would recommend you not to apply now. I would recommend you to wait, get your master's degree completed, try to have some experience, and then apply. A lot of time, we see that people directly get admission to a PhD program. It's called Master's Leading PhD, I think. So in that case, people have a bachelor degree and then they directly get admission to PhD program, meaning they do not have any master's degree yet. No matter how many years you completed in your PhD, if you do not get the PhD degree, the highest degree is the bachelor degree. In that case, we recommend people not to apply, wait, complete your PhD degree, and then you apply, because at that moment your highest degree would be a PhD degree. So in your situation, I think we are showing the old question. Samir, can you please change it and put the new question? So short answer to your question is, I would advise you to wait until you complete your master's degree, get some experience, and then apply.
Thank you so much for your response. We have another question from Mr. Nandan Kumar, and he asks, I am a Canadian citizen, but I moved from somewhere else, if that matters. Where would a Canadian who is not born in Canada apply?
So let me answer this question. It doesn't matter where you're from, Canada or Mexico or, like India, China, Philippines, anyway, it doesn't matter. However, as I said, because of the country quota, people from India, China, Mexico, and Philippines, they have a long waiting time. And it doesn't matter if you're a Canadian citizen. The country where you were born will determine which table you'll follow. Let me give you an example. So let's say you were born in India, and later you got Canadian citizenship or Australian citizenship. And then when you apply for NIW, your country of origin will determine by your birth, which is India, not Canada. So if you are born in India, NIW is not a good application for you because there's a long waiting period, almost like 10 to 12 years. But if you're born in like other country where there's not a lot of waiting period, and if you're a Canadian citizen, then yes, you can directly apply. It doesn't matter where you're from.
Thank you so much for your response. Ms. Claire Baker says, thank you so much for the brilliant answer. Up next, we have a question from Ms. 𝗦𝘂𝘃𝗍𝘆, and she asks, what role does an applicant's level of education and experience, a work experience, play in the NIW evaluation process? How can someone with a strong academic background but limited work experience still qualify for the waiver?
Helen, do you like to answer it?
Sure. So in that sort of scenario, I would ask, do you have publications? How many do you have? How many citations do you have? Because if you have a strong academic background, that's perfectly great. That would be fine. You can show if you've gotten any scholarships, maybe you've done some, like research work program. Maybe you've done, gotten awards, or you've done publications throughout your time in school, and that would be fine. You don't necessarily need work experience. I mean, if you have, like if maybe you've been a research assistant or a teaching assistant, something like that, maybe you've been involved with some sort of like volunteer chapter of something through your school where you maybe got a leadership role for a club or some sort of society. Maybe you have some memberships that you've become a part of, like a professional membership specific to your industry. So I think that would still be great. I mean, we can show publications. We don't have to show work experience as much. We just have to show that you are more likely than not to be able to progress toward your proposed endeavor. So your proposed endeavor is not something that you absolutely have to achieve. There's no one person that can just eliminate greenhouse gas emissions, something like that. But if you're working towards that, that's like your goal and that's what you're progressing towards. So we just show that you are capable, you have a solid background, and it has to be in your proposed endeavor field. So it's fine if you don't have extensive work experience. We can still talk about other things.
Isabella, before you ask the question, so we'd like to end our session within the next 2 to 3 minutes, probably 4 or 5 minutes. So if anybody has any question, please ask us. We will probably end this session after like 2-3 minutes. Yeah, Isabella, go ahead.
Okay, thank you so much, Ms. 𝗏𝘆, for your response. Up next, we have a question from Mr. 𝗂𝘃𝗲𝗄, and he asks, a lot of focus is put on research and publications when going through the NIW process. For professionals without these, can a master's degree and years of work experience count? And any special consideration for airline pilots when going through the NIW process?
Chelsea, do you like to answer it?
Sure. So we've kind of talked about this in a roundabout way. So in the NIW process, for professionals without publications, we can use your projects and years experience in the industry to discuss the importance and impact and talk about that instead of publications. So we've had several clients who do work, we refer to them as work-based NIW or project-based NIW. So when we have clients who are doing project-based NIWs, we just take projects and work experience, and we discuss those things in the NIW instead of publications. And as far as special consideration for airline pilots, without doing some research, I do believe that there's some national interest in airlines as they recover from the COVID-19. I think that we've just worked on a client who had maybe some interest in proposed endeavor from the airlines, and we were able to connect it to COVID-19 recovery. So yes, my understanding is there should be plenty of national interest that we can align a proposed endeavor for a pilot. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Smith, for your response. Mr. Mahajan, how many more questions can we take? There are still quite a lot piled up.
We'll probably take like 3 or 4 more. Yeah, let's finish it like 11:50. Let's have like 5 more minutes.
All right. We have another question from Mr. Peter M. Rosario, and he asks, do the recommenders of the letters of recommendation need to be U.S. citizens by birth?
Helen, do you like to answer?
Sure. So typically, no is the short answer. So we like to use people that are currently in America, showing that they are furthering, American interests, American industry directly. They don't have to be U.S. citizens by birth, but if they are in America, that is slightly helpful just to show that, they are aware of the industry here and how you can impact the industry here. Obviously, science, if that is your industry, science and science everywhere. So, it kind of just depends on what your industry is. You can also use recommenders that are currently in other countries, but we do like to try and get at least a few that are physically in the United States, but they don't have to be citizens.
I hope that answers your queries. We have another question from Ms. Debalina Datta-Gupta, and she asks, if one does not have publications at all, would they still be eligible for NIW? If yes, do the chances of petition getting rejected increase?
Let me answer it in a short way. No, we already talked about this. Publication citation is not mandatory. It's definitely good if you have publication in citation, but if you do not have, if you just have work experience, that's also okay. It doesn't, have the, it doesn't do the rejection rate higher. It's the same thing like having publication citation, but you have to show your work experience in a good way.
Thank you so much. We have another question from Mr. Raj Sigdel, and he asks, after we retain your service, do we get to meet with the assigned attorney at least once via Zoom to talk about how to strategize the case?
Chelsea, do you like to answer?
Sure. So after you are retained, our clients meet with Helen and or myself to discuss your proposed endeavor, any letter of recommendation questions or other onboarding questions that you may have. At that time, we also discuss the NIW strategy, and we are able to kind of get the client's kind of initial thoughts on how they would like to approach their NIW. After the case is assigned to either a law clerk or an attorney to draft, the client will continue to have direct communication to that person assigned the case. And so any, further questions or developments that need to occur will get worked out directly with the drafter. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Up next, we have another question from Miss Lady Degan, and she asks, I am a nurse who trained in the United Kingdom, and I have a master's in nursing. I am planning to apply for EB2 NIW, and my proposed endeavor is to secure employment as a nurse practitioner. I have no publications. How do I go about obtaining an expert opinion?
Let me answer this question. So yes, America is in short of like healthcare providers, especially nurse practitioners, nurses. But in most cases, I recommend people to not just mention about a job in their proposed endeavor. Like if you just say, well, I'll go to America and I'll be a nurse practitioner, I'll work in a hospital, it doesn't show that your work is going to impact the entire America. It shows that your work is going to impact a hospital, probably a local community. So I always recommend people also I'm talking about the pilot who asked question previously. when you write your proposed endeavor, just don't say that you'll come to America and you'll be a pilot, because in that case, your work is going to impact the airline company probably. Try to show that your work is going to impact the whole America as a country. So Miss Lady Dagan, I would recommend you to write that you'll do some research. Since you have a nursing degree, you have a lot of experience. And by the way, when I say research doesn't mean like a PhD level research. Research can be anything. So let's say the way a nurse works, like the procedure, there can be a lot of research on how to improve the procedure, how to improve the communication between a nurse and a patient. There can be a research about the working hours, working environment. There can be a lot of research. And a lot of time when people have experience, so let's say you have like a 10 years experience as a nurse, so you know the nursing job very well. And then if you do some research how to improve anything, that would be a good research. So to short answer to your question, I would recommend you not just to say that you will be a nurse practitioner when you come to America. Tell that you'll be definitely a nurse practitioner. At the same time, you'll do some research on how to improve this, blah, blah, blah. And your research will impact the entire America. Similarly, the pilot asked question earlier, I would recommend you to write proposed endeavor this way, that if you come to America, you will definitely be a pilot. At the same time, you'll do some research on something about being a pilot, and that research will impact the country or even the world as a whole. So focus more on research than just one job.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mahajan, for that response. We still have more questions lined up, but unfortunately, due to the time restriction, we are not able to answer it today. But please join us next session so that we can answer all of your remaining questions as well. Thank you so much for such an energetic Q&A session. Thank you, Ms. 𝗟𝗏𝘆, Ms. 𝗟𝗶𝘆, for joining us. And thank you, Mr. Mahajan, for giving us your precious time today as well. Are there anything else any of you would like to say?
No, I would like to thank everybody who joined today, asked question, and everybody knows that we have a live session every Sunday. Even other than that, you can always email us, and we will try our best to answer all the emails within 24 hours. So if you have any question, you can ask in next Sunday, or you can send us an email in the email address shown in the screen, info@rajula.com, and we'll answer your questions within 24 hours.
Thank you so much, everyone. Please join us next week at the same time as well. Thank you and goodbye.
The EB3 visa, a subcategory of the employment immigration visa, is a powerful option for professionals, skilled workers, and unskilled workers hoping to get permanent residency in the United States. Through the EB3 visa, a U.S. company can sponsor a foreign worker for a green card to a full-time job offer. Raju Law, one of the top immigration law firms in the USA, is your trustful address for any assistance and advice regarding immigration to America. To know more, dial the number shown on your screen.